to click like, subscribe, the bell notification, and whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us.
Let's look at the dynamics of what gatekeeping is. I'm not going to get too heavy, but I will say there are probably going to be comments made, even by myself, when explaining things that may seem somewhat inappropriate or triggering, so I'll apologize in advance. But the point is to really showcase the problematic nature of gatekeeping. So what is gatekeeping? The act of controlling access to something, sometimes often based on arbitrary criteria. It's setting exclusive standards of who can or cannot belong based on who they are, what they like, what they do, anything like that. Dismissing or belittling others' interests, or even creating a sense of hierarchy. Like, you only can be a fan or anything like that if you meet this requirement.
Hence why you probably see in online discourse a lot of what people consider themselves true anime fans. They call people that have only gotten into the fandom over the last 10 years tourists.
So I love this picture.
I've also heard the term used for them, pandemic fans.
Yes, we put criteria on when somebody became a fan, how somebody became a fan. Honestly, being that I'm 45, when anime came out, well, anime has been around forever, but I didn't.
Wait, it's been around even back then, in the during the Renaissance period?
Why not? If you ask half the isekais, yes.
Because the Renaissance was what, 25 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. Same thing with the golden age of cinema. Well, it used to be called Japanimation, which is highly racist. Because nobody knew what it was. And so when I was watching cartoons in the 80s of Robotech, Voltron, even if you think about it, Thundercats, or even the opening music to the X-Men cartoon, you're technically watching anime because it's all created by the Japanese. And so when I knowingly first watched anime, thanks to Toonami, or even before that to USA, Stars, or even
Sci-Fi
Fox.
Channel.
Yes. I was like, oh, this is anime. Well, it looks exactly the same as what I've been watching as a kid. So I got into it much older than others, and I still enjoy it. And there's elements of gatekeeping on that I'll talk about later of, are you too old to watch anime after a certain point? Because a lot of anime out there is high school centric. Is it inappropriate for somebody who's in their 40s to enjoy an anime that has high school students? Are we not allowed to reminisce about what could have been our childhoods that never happened? So the first form of gatekeeping, I put it on here because one, I love The Office, and two, you hear the comment all the time, and you might not be able to fully see the tweet, and if you can't, I can explain it. But how many people have heard, you are not a true fan unless ... That you can't be a true fan of something if you didn't see this arbitrary series. How many people in this room, and this is not to shame anyone because I've done it, how many people have said it themselves? You're not a true fan, you haven't watched this. I've done it inadvertently when talking about random series. Like, are you sure you're a true fan? Because you assume unintentionally that somebody doesn't know. And it's foolish. Yes, it's wrong, but everybody's at risk of it. So one of the tweets that comes up a lot is, if all your common knowledge of anime is Demon Slayer, Naruto, Inuyasha, Bleach, One Piece, Fate, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Gundam, My Hero, Ghost in the Shell, you're not an anime fan. Normies stay the fuck out of anime. Sorry for the language, but just reading it.
And this guy has been clowned on Twitter for years and years and years for this tweet.
And then I like the response. The only thing that doesn't make you an anime fan is gatekeeping people from being fans because of a superiority complex. And a lot of people want to hold, like, who feels that anime is a part of who they are? Do you feel that it's precious to you to be that anime fan? Do you ever feel like sometimes you see in these younger individuals that are coming into con sometimes and you're like, are you truly an anime fan? Because you haven't been in it as long as I have. I've been from the dark ages. And you don't have to raise your hand even if you have felt that way, because it does happen sometimes. You'll see people like, really? Attack on Titan is the new thing, or Genshin Impact is the new thing?
No. Or
in my head, I frequently have the Bane quote with, "You merely adopted the anime. I was born in it, molded by it.
Well, the best-
I didn't see a convention until I was already a man."
Here's another thing too I've heard from people are like, you're not a real anime fan if you pay to watch it on streaming services.
Oh, I've heard that too.
So our introduction to Attack on Titan, though, we were at Anime Expo in 2013, and we see these people in military uniforms with toasters on their sides, and we're like, what is this that everyone's dressed up as? And then later on, we're at a production IG panel, and they start talking about, I was like, oh, that's what those toasters are from.
We felt so incredibly old at that particular moment. So another thing that is a form of gatekeeping is feeling that if you only like the mainstream stuff, you're not a fan. You can't be a fan if you only like mainstream or like what's new now. Like this picture that, for what you're seeing, if I flip myself around, on this side with the pretentious weeb starter pack.
Which she's pointing at me towards in her head
But
right now.
it's weird because they have Ergo Proxy on there, which is not mainstream.
But really good.
Well,
No.
it is, and it's like,
And
are you saying that?
Yeah, but those are the pretentious weebs, the ones that everybody says you're not a true weeb unless you watch that stuff.
And so you dismiss people for like something popular or mainstream. And most time people see what's popular and mainstream online. And that's saying that, well, if you only see it online and you don't sail the 7 seas to acquire things, or you don't have a ridiculously large collection of figures and everything else, you're not a fan. And it's hurtful. How many people feel like if they watch certain things that they even question themselves if they're truly a fan, or if don't watch enough anime? Absolutely. You feel like you have to watch so much anime to be a part of the crowd, and it's not okay if you don't.
When I worked at a Best Buy for several years, I had some of my coworkers were like, I don't know, anime just looks weird to me. I can't get into it. So I would tell them, look, there's so many series out there, so many movies. There's going to be at least one that appeals to you. It may be the only one ever, but there's something for everybody, no matter your taste. And those two people fell in love with Cowboy Bebop. For one of them, Cowboy Bebop is the only anime he could ever get into. But it's like, dude, it doesn't matter. You like one series, you're an anime fan.
And you can't put that barrier. Now, the next thing that comes up is elitism. And I know in our friends group we'll joke about this because we're like, back in our day, in the 90s, the anime was great. The artistry was, and you probably even heard, how many in this room have heard their parents say, back in my day, music was better? I should see almost everybody's hands up, because I can guarantee you from the 80s to the 90s and on further, and I have started saying it. I'm like, how can you get into Justin Bieber? Pop music back in the 80s was so flamboyant, and I was like, oh my God, I've become my mother. Or in this era, like 80s movies are the best, or anything. You've heard so many people say that. And people believe the golden age of anime was the 90s because it had the most eclectic, in their opinion.
I would say it was the early 2000s.
But if you're elite and you think only this era of anime, or only the era that you got into anime is the best, you're excluding so many people from that conversation.
There's something to be said about the elitist anime fans and elitist metalheads. They're one and the same.
And if you think about it, because culture has evolved. So in the 90s animes, or in 80s or 90s animes, I know their anime is plural for anime, but you have to also remember those older animes had a lot of discrimination or very inappropriate ways that they showcase people of different color. They had sexism higher than they do today. They have homophobia, transphobia. Think about so many of the queer characters that were in anime that were treated as jokes.
And you're a fan of Sorcerer Hunters, which is a good example
I was
of that.
going to say, my favorite series is Sorcerer Hunters from the 90s, and one of the main characters, Marin, is a caricature, and forgive me, I like what I like, but I look at it with 2025 eyes now, and it's like, okay, this is the most inappropriate caricature of somebody who is queer.
How about Commander Black from Dragon Ball?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was actually going to mention, me and my friends were upstairs watching an anime called DNA Squared last night.
That one has not aged well from the 80s.
There are some parts of that series, I think that was a 90s one.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's 90s.
But yeah, you were downstairs during that. But we were watching an episode, and there's the scene that we were just like, Jesus, you can tell this is going on longer than it needs to.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically one involving a girl and a couple of Fist of the North Star rejects. I don't need to say anything else.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Now, here is my favorite parts of gatekeeping. Sub versus dub. So let me ask everyone in this room, safe space once again, except for all the people leaving. I love you, but I'm sad at the same time. How many people prefer subs over dubs? How many people prefer dubs? How many people really don't care?
It's a case by case basis.
Well, that's exactly it. There's some series I like better subbed. There's some series I like better dubbed. For example, some of the shows that are like Hellsing, I like better dubbed because they do the British accents. Gankutsuo, both language tracks are amazing, but the English version gets the French name pronunciations correct. On the other hand, I can't stand most Gundam dubs, so I prefer Gundam subtitled.
Now,
This hand of mine glows with an awesome power.
so this is the biggest form of gatekeeping in the anime community by far, because the people who love subs stand firm, stand tall, and will never watch anything dubbed, and those who like dubs will not watch series that are never dubbed. So, and they will chastise.
And then when you come into Latin America, they love their dubs better than the subtitles in Latin America because they get some really high-profile Spanish actors to do their Spanish language dubs.
And how many people have been accused, the dub fans specifically, how many people have possibly been accused of not actually liking anime because you're only watching in English? I have. I was like, you can't be an anime fan because you're just watching in English. English is not the true language of the series. I have something fun to tell everybody. No matter what language you watch in, it's dubbed. Because guess what's done last in the process? The voices. So the only cartoons that are actually have the language tracks done before animation is actually American cartoons. Because if you look at The Simpsons, for example, or any of the Disney movies, you can see the mouth flaps moving in the way American language is done.
Yeah, there's a good documentary that came out years and years ago that was about the process of animation in America, and it was from Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers was showing the process of the voice recording that's done for their DC animated films before they do the animation.
1 second. So before you cover the couple of things you have, I want to show this one really quick video. It's horrible quality, but I actually love this man's explanation.
Hey man, I want to start watching anime, but what should I watch it in? Sub or dub? That's a great question.
Everyone's preferences are different when it comes to watching anime, and there's no right or wrong answer. I like to compare watching anime to eating chicken wings. What? Chicken wings? Just hear me out. There's two kinds of chicken wings, traditional and boneless. A lot of people think traditional is best because of the authentic flavor that comes from the meat off of the bone. They are harder to eat though, and it can get messy. Okay. Boneless wings, on the other hand, don't require near as much concentration and can be eaten hands-free. This is why a lot of people prefer boneless instead. Where are you going with this? Bottom line, the sub and dub argument is exactly the same. Sub fans will swear that sub is better for the authenticity of the language coming from the country the show was produced in, while dub fans want the convenience of not having to read and being able to multitask while watching the anime.
So I wanted to share that explanation because this is the biggest form of gatekeeping and where the most arguments truly come from when it comes to anime. Because people will, I almost feel like anime fans will fight to the death on their language track preference. Yes?
I would say there's a third one.
Okay.
Manga readers.
Oh, okay. The pretentiousness of manga readers.
Hey, screw you.
I was specifically saying it for you.
I will
But
only
yes.
do One Piece in manga form.
No, manga readers are
But
a
it's not in
whole.
one piece.
So, I am that kid, so to speak, who would read the Stephen King books before seeing the movies, which is probably not the most appropriate thing with the movie It. However, because I saw it when it aired on TV, or with the Harry Potter books.
Oh my God.
read. Oh yeah, no, he listened to hours of me complaining about what they changed from the books. But manga readers are their own creature, and I look at them at the same thing. There's people who don't like to watch TV. There's people who complain about the ending of a series based on what the manga style are standing. Oh, yeah. So that is very true, and that is another element of this argument, because if people, like when I tell people, oh, I'll just watch the anime of One Piece because I can watch it in the background and I don't have to think about it, I have people, thankfully he knows me so he understands, but there will be other people like, but there's so much filler. I was like, yeah, I have a fancy little device called fast forward. So
Or it's background noise.
now what were you gonna say?
So, two things on this whole sub versus dub thing.
Hey.
First was a perfect example. Alamo Draft House several years ago when they were showing One Piece film, not Film Z, one of the recent.
Red?
It was
Not Film Red. It was the one before Red. The one
Stronger?
strong.
Strong World
It
or
was stronger
Whatever.
than gold.
They were showing, the Alamo Draft House was having one showing was dub, one showing was sub. Well, they accidentally flipped them. So we went to see the dub because One Piece I love in both languages, but we were going to go see it in dub. Well, we ended up getting subtitles, and everyone in the theater, we were all like, oh, it's subbed, whatever, okay, cool, and watched it no problem. Well, when the people went in there for the sub version and they got dubbed, they started raging at the staff, demanding that, well, we want free food, we want our money back, we want free tickets, and getting mad at the staff, making it that it was their fault for the showings being switched.
When it was the fault of the
And
masters they got.
it was like, it's not really. I understand you let one. You did pay with the expectation of being it subtitled, but it was an honest mistake. You didn't need to take it out on the people who had no control over it. But the other thing is, especially for live action, I am not a fan of dubs in live action form at all, because to me it looks like the audio is out of sync with the voices. So anything I watch, Super Sentai, Godzilla, Kamen Rider, Ultraman, I can't do dubbed. But as much as I'm not into the dubs also help people who have reading difficulties, who can't all just sit there and watch subtitles because they struggle with reading,
or they're dyslexic, or they're visually impaired. Are we to tell people who are blind that they can't enjoy
So
anime?
dubs also help those people enjoy the same stuff you get to enjoy. Yes.
There's a great argument too, like, the sub might be more authentic with the language and stuff, but is it truly the better experience when you're having to spend the time reading the subtitles when you could be looking at the visuals, you know?
Well,
That's what my dad has said a lot.
There's
Yeah.
eventually a point, if you do read and watch enough subtitled media, where you can read the lines in about 2 seconds.
But not everybody.
One ADR director several years ago said the difference between subtitles and dubs, especially for comedy series, the purpose of the subtitles is to explain the joke to you of what the joke is being said. The purpose of the dub is to make a joke that makes you laugh the same way they would in Japan, and directors in Japan would rather have the jokes changed if it will get the American audiences to laugh in the same manner the sequence was intended to be.
Saki K is probably the one that they use most often for this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to me, dub or sub is entirely dependent on the quality of the localization. If
Yes.
the localization is bad, then I don't want to watch it.
Absolutely.
It's like, it doesn't track. I'd rather watch it with the subs with, okay, I might not understand every joke, but like, at least I understand that.
And there are some things, like one thing that gripes me a lot are when they do voice changes. And even Japan will do voice changes, so sometimes you'll get the dub will have the same voice all the way through, whereas the Japanese version, they had to change the voice for one reason. Like recently in One Piece, the Japanese voice actor for Frankie, Yao, he has retired, so Subaru Kimura has taken over the role of Frankie in One Piece.
That's why Frankie changed?
Yeah, because he's retired, because he's also been in and out of the hospital.
I thought I was going mad.
But kind of keeping on track with this, here are the reasons why. So, why do people gatekeep? And you want to look at the psychology of it. It's not just like forms of gatekeeping and the negatives of it, but you want to understand why people do. So the joke here is with a dad who's like, I've been telling people they're not true gamers if they're on their phones playing games, because it's different than what they are. It's different. It's scary. How many people like routine? How many people hate change? Okay, honestly, how many people hate when they go into a situation they're not
Change.
comfortable with?
You gotta change.
Perfect. And that's why some people gatekeep. It's not to truly be mean, it's not to be rude. They want to preserve that sense of community. Having too many people here can create more.
Well, who's heard the term, well, anime's been ruined since it became mainstream?
Yes.
It's like, why? Why are you... It being mainstream means you get more releases.
But the fear of having too much anime is you feel like you're losing control. And it's not an age thing. It can be due to but it could be a part of somebody through neurodiversity. It could be a part of somebody if they're coping. I wanted to do a panel on anime and mental health because there's a lot of correlation between the two. And there's a lot of value in it. So people want to feel that connection. And sometimes the bigger it gets, the bigger the audience gets, the bigger the community, the more isolated they can feel because there's other people in the community that are not like them. And it doesn't mean anything just being different. Yes, Michael, and then yourself.
I heard just on Friday, someone went, these new anime fans don't count. They were never bullied.
Well, and that is a very true thing. There are many older fans that were horrifically bullied for liking anime.
I'm a former teacher, and every time I meet new students, I do a whole introduction of who I am. I'm originally from New York. I'm a gamer, YouTuber, manga, movie, anime nerd. I'm an action figure collector. And I had in third grade class one time, one girl's like, you like anime? I do too. And she pulled out, her dad had got her from Japan, a Madoka Magica art book.
Yeah, not for third grade, but sure.
And she's like, yeah, I like anime. And another student in the class was like, oh, I didn't know you liked anime. I like anime too.
It was a dirty. To be fair, when in the 90s, it was a horrifically dirty little secret you liked anime. It wasn't. You could say you were a metalhead. You could say you were a druggie. Nobody would have a problem. You like to watch cartoons as an adult? Oh my god.
Or there was the stereotype at that time too that it was just adult cartoons.
Or you were creepy old men. So women watching cartoons like anime, it was like, well, you got to be as creepy as the dirty old men have to be. And it's like, so okay,
Well, it's just that like I've grown up in this. Like my mom was a geek, so I've been going to cons since I was 3. And one of the things that I personally noticed is when I was interacting with the community when I was younger, everyone seemed much more friendly, much more inclusive. But as it's gotten more and more popular, I feel that there's become kind of like our political situation.
It's like
much
a
more
clique.
antagonistic, much more biting, like cosplay. Is one of the reasons why I don't cosplay anymore, because of how, I don't want to say evil it got for quite a while during the Yaya period, but it did. And I still feel that like the more people we brought out, yeah, I could get more products, but I feel less safe within my community.
And that is a fear of that sense of community.
Yeah.
Because not everybody continues to feel as equal as before. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Well, it's also, you talk about that dirty old man statement about 25 years ago, anime was confused a lot with hentai.
Yep.
In the sense of, oh, you're watching anime porn. It's like, no, if we're watching,
Oh, absolutely. No, and I can say I've seen Looney Tunes porn. That's worse. You and then you. Yes.
Yeah. There's this one time back in video stores or video rental stores,
Okay.
and I had to, when I went in there, I was like, when I was going, oh, I came across this anime title, which is like in the children's section. And I had to take it up to the desk there and tell them, this one's not appropriate for this section. because those hardcore hentai.
Oh yeah, it's like those memories are not for kids.
We worked at the public library back in Buffalo, New York, and she worked in the fiction section, and they would have the anime titles there. And what was the title? What was one of the titles they had in the general audience title?
Oh god, I can't remember it.
Was it Demon City Shinjuku?
No, it was Tenjo Tenge. Yeah, no, it was in the general audiences where kids could get it, and this is when I was still learning about anime because I thought Vice Christ looked cool until I saw it. But I was like, are you sure we should be letting? And that's a judgmental thing because there's kids today who play GTA 4 and they're younger than my nephew who is 10. But you had a comment as well.
Yeah, I think a big effect has been how quickly a lot of this has shifted. Because like it feels like one moment it was all anime is hentai, and then the next moment it was still maybe all anime isn't hentai, but you're still weird for watching it. And then suddenly Attack on Titan came out and everybody loves anime.
It's not so much Attack on Titan. You can correspond it to when Sword Art Online blew out.
Oh yeah. Well, if you remember in Sailor Moon, Neptune and Uranus were cousins originally.
In the dub.
But, oh yeah.
And you mentioned public libraries. Another thing has come up. There's manga in the public libraries. Lots of it. And just this last year, my hometown's entire library district has been turned on its head because a conservative woman found a copy of Prison School in the YA manga section.
Well, and at the same time, I'm just going to put this out here. This is my belief before I go on for anything. All media is valuable to a degree. Like, if we start censoring different things and limiting access, then we are becoming Fahrenheit 451.
My opinion on it is, if you don't like it, don't watch it, don't read it. Mind your business. You're free to say, I don't agree with this, but don't try to stop other people who do enjoy it from enjoying it just because you don't like it. I am personally sick to death of isekai, but I'm not going to stop people from enjoying it.
You'll just judge us.
I might make fun about it. I might say, well, I like Escaflowne, the only good isekai, but I'm not going to stop people from enjoying it.
Explain that.
Okay, you first and then you, my friend.
So about the topic about
And if you forgot now, interrupt me and we can come back to it. Absolutely, yeah.
The don't like, don't read is like, that was honestly the biggest motto, especially for us female AFAB fans who are very much into the
Boys love.
Gary BL scene, where it's like, back then, don't like, if there's something don't like, don't read it. That was pretty much what everyone did back in the day. But the problem is nowadays, especially with all these younger minors and teens and kids getting into it way too young and not realizing, thinking that, oh, just because something's problematic has problematic tropes, that instead of ignoring it, like, if you don't like it, don't read it. Instead, they harass and send death threats to the people who do enjoy it and say that you should not be into this, you should not be into that, and get into stuff when they're way too young without proper guidance to know that, hey, you shouldn't be harassing people just because they like something.
And that's one of the challenges that comes from gatekeeping. And I'll share a fact with everybody. Every single person in this room, including everybody on the stage, has in some form, even unintentionally, may have gatekept somebody with opinions. Yeah, no, you do it all the time. You gatekeep on my Terrifier series. Did you figure out what you wanted to say?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
About toddler censoring. So like I saw this one article where like one school like they taught Assassin's Classroom.
Mm-hmm.
That was like problematic.
Oh yeah.
So like I mean it's so valuable, I feel like just the lessons.
Yeah, I know what article you're talking about. The mother that found it just read the title and felt it needed pulled without even reading the material.
And
well, so in my classroom, I actually had a full manga section.
I have to keep going.
I know, and regular books. And I had a parent. Well, why do you have manga in here? Because some kids in the class love manga. Yeah, but they should be reading real books. Look at this page. There's words in here they're not going to know. Reading is reading. It's also helping those who struggle with all kinds of words on one page read in sentences that are spread out because they're a visual learner, so they're learning to read visually, and then they can move on to chapter books.
And so, just because I do have to keep on, just last comment and then we can keep up.
Yeah, I remember hearing in the news recently that there's going to be a proposed law in Texas to curb some media depicting minors in inappropriate situations.
Yes, I have many thoughts on that. I can talk more about that after the panel because, like I said, I work in HR. I have to know the most ridiculous laws in existence. So the other fear, or the other reason why gatekeeping happens, a fear that many of us can have, is that fear of dilution. Like the picture says, sorry, I have too much anime to watch. I can't do anything else. And as you can see from this graph here, since the 1960s, when anime started with a little bit of creation, there has been an extreme proliferation of anime to the point where each year you can get another 100 series. And it's a lot for people to have to take in. And sometimes if you get overwhelmed easily, and just anybody can get overwhelmed. And if you're one who can get overwhelmed by having too many options, which is why many people canceled cable in the first place, you now have so many options for anime that you have to kind of investigate, what is it that I want to watch? So you're still being diverse, but you're not limiting yourself.
Yeah, they said streaming would kill cable. Now it's more expensive than cable.
So last thing is establishing that status and identity. Some people feel it's important to themselves, it's important to their opinions, self-worth. However they look at themselves as an individual, which is not wrong, that they personally feel value based on how many series they can say they have watched or completed or anything in that realm. Some people like that status because it's a part of who they are. That's why I asked a question earlier of how many people feel anime is a part of who they are. That's that status that you can look into. Now, what are some of the impacts of gatekeeping? And I don't know why the text is so light here, but first, exclusion and alienation. By gatekeeping, you are excluding new people from the community. You are preventing somebody new that may not look like you, act like you, talk like you, or anything from getting into it because they feel they cannot connect, because if they can't breach that hurdle of you, or just in general what you and your friends or the community brings, they're not going to enter. The next thing that you have is, once again, that kind of pushing back against them, telling them if they don't like certain things, or as this one clip on the one side here, if my mouse is working, where you see the picture of the Moe girl, because I have no idea what the series is.
That's not a series, that's a VTuber.
But nonetheless, some impacts from gatekeeping. I'm actually going to use The Last of Us 2 as an example. Laura Bailey, who's in the game, has received more death threats for a single game than she has ever had in her career. And now she is horribly gatekept from doing other things, and people who enjoy her characters and other things can be bullied because of that one game. Or if you don't like the dub, so the sub versus dub debate from earlier, the impact is, let's say you have someone who can't read very well, or is uncomfortable trying to read that fast because sometimes those subs go quick. And even for me, I'm like, what did that say? Can we rewind? Or can somebody give me a subtitle for the subtitle type of thing? And so attacking people, you then prevent new incomers from arriving.
And let's not forget about the gatekeepers that gatekeep Vic.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that, but
That's
there are
more
things. Yes.
complicated.
Yeah.
Now the next.
Making an 18 up panel.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well,
You can do your own pin on that next year.
yeah, I'm not touching that with 10-foot pole.
Yeah, no.
Then you get lack of diversity. How many anime characters look alike? Tons. So just as an example, I like Gojo, don't get me wrong. He is a yummy person in Jujutsu Kaisen. But until I had this side by side, I was like, wait, he does look like that dude from Naruto. Kakashi. And then
And as a Fate fan, we've made jokes for years about how Saber and Violet from Violet Evergarden look like the same character.
And then you have this picture of 9
Isekai heroes
that all look so close to the same. And I really like this quote from Shinichiro Watanabe, who is
The creator of Cowboy Bebop.
when he says, when you're making anime, if you get all of your inspiration from anime, it's going to lack originality and creativity. So basically, you are creating an anime based off an anime. So you're not having that originality. And it's not saying that there isn't originality from utilizing those things, but you want to not just base your interest on what you already see out there. You want to take advantage, because if you have these characters that all look alike, what other types of characters or colors or different types of personalities or orientations are you eliminating because you are utilizing the same model for convenience?
And I love that quote from Watanabe, especially with Lazarus coming out next month, when he said his 2 inspirations for the series were the American TV shows Prison Break and Breaking Bad.
Now here's the next thing that was brought up earlier on why one doesn't want to cosplay anymore. If you do not fit into that mold of what an animated 50-pound character, jokingly, because these anime characters don't look they've ever eaten in their lives.
By this logic,
or 17-year-old Jotaro Kujo, who looks like he's been lifting weights for 50 years.
Yes.
By this logic, no one is ever allowed to cosplay as any One Piece female.
Or if you have someone who is a different skin color than their favorite character, cosplaying as their favorite character. Or a different gender identity, cosplaying as their favorite character of a different gender identity. You don't belong. you're a fake fan. You can't do this. You're not in this box. You are then removing people who have just as much of a right to enjoy what they like, as long as they're not harming anybody. I'm gonna say it for a non-18 plus channel. Who the fuck cares? Does anybody care if a black girl is doing cosplay of a white character? Anybody truly care? How about a white girl, well, not blackface, doing of an Asian anime character? Does anybody care? How about a really butch guy dressing up as Sailor Moon? Does anybody care?
Go right ahead.
Yes.
No.
Or how about Man-Fae? Has anybody truly complained about Man-Fae? And if you are too young to know who Man-Fae is, he is the pinnacle of a really cool dude. I'm assuming, I've never met him.
Oh, he's hilarious.
But from all the stories, this man, since his favorite character is Faye Valentine, and he is a man, but he dresses up in cosplays as Faye Valentine.
And he was kicked out of many conventions for it.
Yep. Because he did not fit the standards of what was appropriate, because men should not be dressing up as women and women should not be dressing up as men. And I was like, wait, have you never been to the Globe Theater and watched original Shakespearean plays?
And keep in mind, this is California where the Pink Pony Club exists.
I was gonna say, like, why should this be limited to just like cosplaying too? Why can't a guy, even when he's not cosplaying,
Well,
dress up
exactly.
Thank
yes.
you.
No, and why does a girl have to be accused of being butch if she wants to dress masculine? Or what does a guy have to be accused of being femme? Like I said, I'm not going to use perfect terms, but these are some of the terms that are put out there. If they want to dress some way different, it's truly not fair. And it shouldn't be just limited to anime and conventions. I'm not going to go down that political route because, as I said, I work for the enemy. I don't agree with the enemy, but I work for them, so I have to keep it somewhat tidy because he's recording it. But in truth, people should be able to live their lives how they want. The next thing that I love is, did you say anime are cartoons? How many people have heard that anime are cartoons? I actually have to say it's fascinating to see everybody presumptively over the age of 30 raising their hand, and everybody under the age of 30 not raise their hand. How many people have never heard the term anime or cartoons? Now, how many people actually know logically anime is cartoons?
Everybody better raise their hand on
I
that
was
one.
like, anime technically is a cartoon.
It was actually funny because we were at a restaurant talking about this panel of the plans of it, and there was some guy at another table like, oh, I agree, cartoons are for kids, anime are strictly for adults. And we're like, that's the exact opposite of what we were just talking about.
Now, why we want to stop gatekeeping? Create a more inclusive fandom. Anybody and everybody should be welcome to the table, no matter what they're doing, what they're wearing, and what they're looking like. I can guarantee you the reason why I don't cosplay is because I don't have the time nor patience to make a costume. And when I see people, even if they're just wearing like a schoolgirl outfit, I will give them a compliment for two things. One, even if they purchased it off the rack, they still put in the effort to get that, even if it's not related on any anime. And two, the amount of bravery any cosplayer has to dress up is immense. Because it doesn't matter what you look like or how you present yourself, you are taking that risk that I, as a 40-something-year-old human being, has never taken that risk on. And I've been to more metalhead concerts than anything, so I mosh, and that's a risk for bodily safety.
I've crowd surfed.
Now, also, I don't know why this is... What the hell are you doing? Okay. Also emphasizing that anime is for everyone. As he said earlier, a good anime can change your life. How many people have that one anime that they always turn to I'm sorry, I thought she was gonna like hack up something as I was talking sappy and all. But how many people have that one anime that is what has made them a fan that they still turn to this day and watch on occasion? That's like a safety blanket. Exactly. We should all have that safety blanket like Linus did in Charlie Brown, and never take that away from anyone. And then, if you do know somebody who doesn't know anything about anime, isn't interested, welcome them. Talk about what you think as an individual, because we all have in our mind that top 5 list of anime that we would recommend to somebody who's never seen anything before. We also know what our favorites are. And my recommendation is, in a way, know your audience. Like if you're talking to somebody who's super conservative, don't necessarily recommend
High School Double D.
Yes. I love High School DxD, but I'm a woman of culture. It's not the greatest culture, but it's culture.
We partially run an anime meetup group, and usually the second Friday of every month we get together, have with a dinner, and we'll have new people come, and there will be new people like, I've only watched 1 or 2 anime series, but so what would you recommend? And then a lot of them will write down titles, and you're like, well, what do you like? Because someone's like, well, I'm really into fantasy stories, or I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. Well, then there's Record of Lodoss War, and you can give them a whole list of whatever. Or if they're into crime dramas, there is oh god, now I'm blanking.
Well,
I usually recommend City Hunters of that.
Yeah, there's so many that you can do, and it doesn't have to be mainstream.
No, I'm thinking of the one we own on Blu-ray that we have not actually
Bacano?
Bacano.
Yeah. Bacano, whatever. Yeah, as you can clearly tell, I have no gift of language.
Well, then 91 Days is another one too I'd recommend in that.
But at the same time, if you see somebody gatekeeping, this is the one thing I will impart on everyone. There is what's in the teaching field and the medical field. It's called a designated reporter. These are individuals that don't have authority like police or military or anything like that are responsible for protecting others in the community, be it their students, be it their patients, or even students of other classrooms. I task everyone, be that person. If you see somebody, I know it was mentioned during opening ceremonies by Kieran when he said, if you see somebody in trouble, obviously bear in mind your own safety. Don't just do what I do and be like, you mother, and like yell at them, because that's probably not the safest thing to do.
That's just your New Yorker.
Yes, but if you see somebody who's trying to gatekeep someone else, don't be afraid to say hey, and do it nicely, like tactfully as best as you can, unlike him, and be like, hey, I personally think whatever you like is cool. This is my recommendation. You can kind of like change the narrative, change the conversation, challenge that gatekeeping behavior so that we can continue down this path that many people over the age of 40 didn't get the luxury of having, where we were bullied or we had to hide our interests because we were fearful of bullying, because I dealt with it on other things. I didn't want to deal with it on anime because that seemed like the stupidest thing. And allow the future generations to continue not having to be bullied for what they like. And it takes all of us as a community, not just at conventions alone, but in the world at large. And you don't have to be an introvert, an extrovert. You don't have to be atypical or neurodiverse or anything like that. You can just be you and still represent and make people feel welcomed. And remember, thank you, anime, for always being here for me. I honestly have to say, anime, and this is why I want to do a mental health panel, anime, alongside my husband, has saved my life in many ways, because the anime Nana helped me as a recovering addict to see, okay, there are other series that can help speak to me on I'm not alone in it. You, and then I'll go with you, and then you, Michael.
Okay.
Go ahead.
With the gatekeeping, like, you were saying, like, so the younger generation can enjoy it not being bullied. The problem is that I feel like, especially these past couple of years, it's becoming the opposite, where the younger generation, especially minors and young adults getting into anime, and like I was mentioning earlier, getting into things that are way too inappropriate, don't understand, don't like, don't read. They're trying to bully the older generation, those of us older people, saying that we shouldn't be into this, we shouldn't be into anime anymore.
Well, there's a reverse thing that comes with that as well. And
it's not just isolated to anime. It's also very, very common in the metal community.
The hard part is, I don't want to get too much into it because that could be an entire topic on its own. But the hard part is younger generations are so used to being spending a lot of their time on social media. They don't have social awareness. They feel like if you...
And this is not to say everybody painted with a wide brush.
But
this is not
there
to
are
be
a lot
presumptive
that
of everyone.
they are so used to online. If you say something different from their thought, for them, they think you're personally attacking them, and they go into defense mode. And that's kind of what happens is they're in situations they're not used to in the real world, so they instantly just jump into their defensive position.
But to be fair, before we get too far with it, because we do have 5 minutes left, but to be fair, compare with older individuals who do like problematic things. Like I said, I love Sorcerer Hunter. It is so problematic if you look at it with a different lens. We as older individuals have to always be conscientious and remember that what we grew up with, even if it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, so different than what kids are growing up with today. When I was like 10 years younger, I would have the argument with myself that kids don't have it easy. Kids have it way too easy today. And then I had to, for my teaching degree, I had to take a class on cyberbullying. And I was like, oh, okay, I now understand how they don't have it easy. They actually have it much worse. Because this, half time I leave it in another room, I literally forget about it. It doesn't exist. But for younger individuals, technology is a part of their lives. And like I said, this is not presumptive for everyone, but this is a reminder that we have to keep up with that. And we have to understand that yes, they might be presumed bullying. And I say presumed because we always have to think of intent. And that is the hardest part of any conversation, even with the conversation of gatekeeping, is it's all about intent.
And maybe they didn't mean to attack. Maybe they didn't realize it because they were just defending.
Now, if it's in written form, I'm going to say one thing and one thing alone. Unless people are using angry emojis, you have no clue where their thought process is.
I also don't think it's helped that debate teams have been phased out of high schools in the last several years.
But with younger generations potentially bullying, in a way, you have a bullying older. The way I look at it is older people get two things that they can do that younger generations can't. One of which, they can walk away. Two, they can think in their minds, just like I said earlier, like what you like. If somebody does not like it and they're gonna give you a dissertation of why not, do what my husband does. Tune them out.
Or
tune out the bullies.
I can't. On my YouTube channel, when I review a series, and if I have someone that says, I don't like this series, I say, oh, well, what is your favorite series? Or just to find out, get them engaged and wanting to talk about what they like.
But I will say, just because we have 3 minutes left, I want to start closing it up. And
you were
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael. My apologies.
Whenever I run into gatekeeping, I walk up to the person doing it and go, oh, quick, name 3 things that make you not a fan. make them have to defend themselves.
But the only
Say, sorry, you can't be a gatekeeper if you can't properly answer that.
But the only thing I will say, and this is a great life skill coming from somebody who works in human resources, don't come at them at their level. If they're hostile, be calm.
Kill them with kindness.
My grandmother
That's one
taught
thing.
me, anybody is an asshole to you or an a-hole, sorry, I just noticed a kid there and I feel incredibly evil. Be considerate of the situation. Be considerate of your safety, and if somebody is giving you a dissertation or being incredibly rude about what they believe and trying to gatekeep you, or any of the things, just smile and safely walk away. But with that, I do want to close the panel.
My one final thought.
Okay.
Older
This-
anime fans, new anime fans have it rough. We got a full story in 26 episodes, and we were done with that show. We had a beginning, middle, and end. These days, they get a beginning, maybe 5-6 years later, they might get a middle, and then after another several years, they may get an end if the show did well enough during that time period. They might not get a full, complete story like we did. So they have it rougher. Be kind.
But truthfully, now it's over. Thank you everybody for attending. I really do appreciate the opportunity. Hopefully you all enjoyed this because I do try to do different
We do
topics
have
like
cards
this.
if you'd like to watch this panel again online later, because on all the panels we did over the weekend.
And some of them will not be on the YouTube channel. They will be free on the Patreon page, though.
So thank you all for joining.
But thank you everyone and have a great rest of your con.